Can the Michigan Wolverines repeat as champions for the 2024 college football season? Well, it depends what we're talking about here. But the short answer is yes, they can. Locked On Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked On Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman. Coming up on 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer, and I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, and of course on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. All right, the Michigan upcoming season may surprise some people. Plus, in our second segment today, we'll take a look at their schedule. We'll go over some wins and losses, get to a win total. I think 10 is available there, plus our Big Ten top 10 observations for the weekend. First of all, though, when we ask, can Michigan repeat as champions in 2024, what are we talking about here? Well, are we talking about back-to-back national championships, or are we talking about a fourth straight Big Ten championship? Maybe the latter before the former, but we'll explore this here. Look, we're on the record as saying that Michigan football will take a slight step back in 2024. That doesn't mean they can't win the Big Ten. I mean, let's keep it real here. A step back from 15-0 undefeated national championship season. I mean, even a loss or two here and there, that's going to be looked at as a step back. I've talked about this many times, and still Michigan people get upset with me for saying that. It's hilarious. It doesn't mean it's bad. They were perfect last year. Not a lot of people do that. But I do think Michigan is going to be better than most people think this year. The question is, how much better? Just because Jim Harbaugh is gone and almost 24 players from last year's team are now in the NFL, that doesn't mean Sherrone Moore's cupboard is bare here. Job number one is to find a starting quarterback and a replacement for JJ McCarthy. Alex Orji came in, ran a few plays here and there throughout the season. Nice change of pace guy, if you will. I didn't see enough out of him last year to make me say right now that, yeah, he's the guy. But does he improve? Kind of like Jalen Milroe did, for example, at Alabama last year. Bama had a big drop-off when they started the season last year at quarterback. And all looked lost. They ended up benching him after the Texas game. But he was reinstated, and he led the Tide to a really good season. They got to the Rose Bowl, and, of course, lost to Michigan in the college football playoffs in that Rose Bowl, as you well remember. He looked pretty good, though, along the way. Wolverine fans would take that kind of trajectory at quarterback in a heartbeat right now if we were talking about Orji and starting the season. Look, we personally were very impressed with Davis Warren's performance in the spring game this weekend, or this past spring, I should say. In fact, he looked very much the part. Although he was very comfortable in the spring game as a pocket passer and a lot more comfortable in that regard than Orji. But I wonder, if Orji's going to be the guy, I just wonder, their styles are so different. Can one truly be a backup to the other without upsetting the flow of the offense? They just have different styles. So then I got to be thinking about Jaden Denigal. What about him? He only played a couple of snaps last year as well, but he intrigues me a little bit. And I think he intrigues offensive coordinator Kirk Campbell. He did an interview this spring. He thinks Denigal is the most improved player on the team this offseason. He also mentioned how he likes his size and compared him in that interview to Ben Roethlisberger. Now, that's quite a comparison, but he's a guy that can break tackles. He's strong. He can keep plays moving on. Ben Roethlisberger, right. Maybe we have something here. Speaking of Denigal's size, this is a quarterback now, 6'5", 235 pounds. So, yeah, he is big. And he can run a lot more than JJ McCarthy did back in the day without as much risk. Not as elusive as Orji is, though. But we do know that Sherrone Moore likes a quarterback that can run the football. Like Jack Tuttle for just a moment. Look, I doubt he's getting the starting job, but it's a nice luxury to have him with his experience. After all, he is a 7th-year senior He was just granted an extra year of eligibility this offseason. There's also Jaden Davis. He's on the depth chart. Feels like he has a lot of potential, but he feels like he could be another year away before a lot of people start paying attention to him. At running back, we all know that Blake Corum is gone. It'll be a big loss, but having Donovan Edwards is a huge luxury. And I expect him to have a monster year this year. Plus, Sherrone Moore, again, likes to run the ball. He's going to get a lot of touches. There's no question. Michigan loses wide receivers like Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson. They're gone. But remember, they got slot receiver Samaj Morgan, who a lot of people think he's really going to step up this year. And he'll have to. Tight end Colston Loveland returns. That's a biggie for this Michigan offense. He will be a big weapon for them this year. There's no question. But the heart and soul of this team is always at that offensive line. And you know, like I do, they lost a lot of guys to the NFL. They all moved on. But there are still a lot of juniors and seniors and grad students waiting for their next time, their chance up. And so there's guys there with plenty of experience and ready to step up. And a perfect example is left tackle and fifth-year senior Miles Hinton. At 6'6", 340 pounds, he'll anchor the line with a lot of experience. He played in 13 games last year, so, I mean, he's used to playing. Started 5 games, and he's versatile. He started 4 games at right tackle and 1 game at left tackle. These are the kind of players that Michigan just reloads with. The team also brought in a transfer from Northwestern in guard Josh Preeb, who comes in at 6'5" and 305 pounds. So I think he, along with Hinton, will anchor the left side of the offensive line. I think they'll be in pretty good shape, to be honest with you. So let's take a look at the other side of the football, because in addition to the offensive line being kind of their calling card, that defense was another calling. They had a lot of calling cards, a lot of premier areas on the team. That's why they went 15-0 and won a national championship. That defense was elite, and they lost a lot of talent as well. Guys like Chris Jenkins and Jalen Harrell up front. Of course, linebackers Junior Colston and Michael Barrett. Nickelback Mike Sainristrow, who he was probably my favorite player to watch, because he was kind of like that X-factor glue guy that was always in the right place at the right time. You know, there'll be a lot of holes to plug on this once elite defense. But I think, like the offense, the depth chart is full of experienced juniors and seniors. And they'll still have one of the best defensive lines in the country when you guys got guys like Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham plugging up the middle. And don't forget, former Maryland linebacker Jay Sean Barnum transferred to Ann Arbor before the Michigan season was even over. I think the first week in December, he says, hey, I'm going to Ann Arbor. I want to play for the Wolverines. So that's a nice get for them. So there was some bad news this spring, of course. Star safety Rod Moore tore his ACL, and it was on a non-contact drill. It was really sad. Of course, he's an Ohio native. He'll forever be remembered as the guy that intercepted quarterback Kyle McCord's pass in the fourth quarter of the Ohio State game. And, of course, that sealed the deal for the Wolverines to win to get into the Big Ten championship and set them into the playoffs. And of course, they won the national championship. On defense, you know, losing a lot of talent to the NFL, Moore missing him. They're going to miss him a lot with that injury. Of course, it's a 9 to 12 month rehab after surgery. So presumably his season is done. And he was a good story too, because he could have been one of those guys that left for the NFL, decided to come back to Michigan for another year, kind of up his stock a little bit for 2025. Now things are on hold until he can get healthy. And last year he had a couple interceptions, including the one against Ohio State, 38 tackles. The year before he had 4 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, 71 tackles. Really good football player. So anyway, we hope he's getting better and on his way. But an experience like that is tough to replace. And the secondary is kind of the one area on the roster where the Michigan depth chart does not have a lot of upperclassmen that can just kind of step up. Keon Saab left too. He's one of the few people who did leave Michigan in the transfer portal. He went to Alabama this spring. And don't forget, though, pulling this all together, you know, the mastermind of that elite defense last year, Jesse Minter, the defensive coordinator, he's gone. He went, he's with Harbaugh out in with the Chargers now. Put together, we're still talking about it, put together one of the best game plans I've ever seen for that national championship game and corralling Michael Penix Jr. and the Washington Huskies. Great. Just a great defensive coordinator. and he will be missed. But the Wolverines went and got themselves Wink Martindale, a lot of NFL experience, great defensive mind in his own right. He'll have a different style, a lot of blitzing. That's what very aggressive. If you like aggressive defenses, Wink Martindale's your guy. So this defense will be pretty good. Look, it'll be tough to live up to the 2023 defense, but it has a chance to be pretty good on the defensive side of the ball. All right, so that's kind of a cap where Michigan stands right now as they get ready for practice next month and getting ready for the season. If you like what you see here, we have more to do. Hang tight, but I'm going to ask you to subscribe. Just click the subscribe button and you're in. It's free. It doesn't require any other information. And then we're in the same Big Ten loop each and every day. And you can follow Locked On Big Ten for free wherever you get your podcast. That way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Don't forget to pick up some Michigan swag, t-shirts, Michigan hats, pennants, everything right on our website. You see the scroll on the bottom with Talk Big Ten. That's the number 10, talkbig10.com. We've got it all there with all of our podcasts plus merchandise from your favorite team right there. All right, Michigan win totals. Can they get to 10? Vegas says 9.5. I'll tell you the three most critical games on their schedule and what it means. Plus, we have some last-minute recruiting news for the Wolverines. So that is all coming up as we kick off our preview season, if you will, here for the Big Ten. A new team we're going to focus on every day, 18 teams, 18 days right here. We'll continue with the Wolverines on Locked On Big Ten. Game time. You'll go to some Wolverine games? Go to Game Time. Get some tickets. Got a lot going on here. Game Time also has great deals for Major League Baseball, and it makes getting tickets faster and easier. Just use the Game Time app, and actually, the closer you wait to first pitch, sometimes you get a lot better deal right there. They got killer last-second deals, all-in prices. They'll show you the view of the seat of the ticket you're about to buy right there on your phone. Got their lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. And again, always some sort of last-second deal, last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% buying these. And that's not just for sports or baseball. Concerts, comedy shows, theaters, anything you can think of that needs a ticket, Game Time is your place to go get those tickets. Take the guesswork out of buying those tickets or Major League Baseball tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and the redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's take a look at this Michigan football schedule here. A little tougher pre-conference schedule than they had last year. So let's jump on this. Let's see if we can come up with a win total. They open it up August 31st against Fresno State. Night game at the Big House, NBC, kicking off the season. It's going to be very exciting. I will tell you this. Fresno State will come in there and play hard. Michigan will win the game. But Fresno's no joke. And they'll need to be taken seriously. So it's not going to be a super easy game. But Michigan will win this football game. As long as they're not looking ahead to week 2, because you all know what's coming week 2. That's the Texas Longhorns. They're coming in here. Arch Manning back up, ready to go behind Quinn Ewers. Texas has some aspirations. They have the feeling this year that Michigan had going into last year, like believing in themselves. They've got the talent. This is it. This is the year to go and go grab it. That's where Texas is this year, but they're coming into the Big House. Let's table that game for just a second in our conversation. Week 3, Michigan's got Arkansas State. That should be a dub. September 21st, take it on Southern Cal. I think the Wolverines win this game. Obviously, there'll be a lot of excitement around this game. USC, Michigan, all their past history with the Rose Bowl and all that, with USC being a new member of the Big Ten. That'll be a CBS game on 3:30 Eastern time. Let's say the Wolverines win that one. We'll circle back when we preview the USC season. See if we still feel that way, but we'll do that later on in a couple of days. Minnesota, rounding out September, should be able to get the win there. Not really sure what Minnesota is going to be able to deliver at quarterback. Ethan Kelly-Akmanis went to Rutgers this year. PJ Fleck, I think it's a big year for him there, but Michigan should get the win there. Then October 5th, the Wolverines go to Washington in a rematch of the national championship. Everybody in the media, including us, will make a big deal about it, but it'll be all new faces, right? New coaches, new quarterbacks, new players on both sides of the ball. So it's a rematch. You're basically rooting for laundry out there. The Michigan uniform versus the Washington uniform, but it'll be all new. But nevertheless, it's a rematch of the national championship, October 5th. Let's say Michigan wins that game. Back-to-back road games for the Wolverines because they'll have a bye, and then they play at Illinois. So they should be able to win that. Although I got some interesting things to say about the Fighting Illini this year as well. Then they come home to take on Michigan State. Okay, that's in October 26th. They should win that game. Those rivalry games, you never know, but Michigan, I think, has a lot more talent than Jonathan Smith's been able to put together thus far. He's doing a pretty good job recruiting out there at East Lansing. Then November 2nd, the Oregon Ducks. This is the big one here. Oregon Ducks, it's at the Big House. And this is a critical game. We're going to remember how we pushed the Texas game aside, wanted to come back to it. This is another one I want to put aside for a minute because we're going to win all these other games. So you got that. Then November 9th, Michigan is at Indiana. That should be a win. Then they come home and take on Northwestern. That should be a win. And then you know who they finish up against on November 30th at Ohio State. So again, if they win Southern Cal and take care of business on all the other games that they should without any slip-ups, there's 9 wins right there. Remember, Vegas had them at 9.5. So you're looking at the Texas game in week 2. You're looking at Oregon in the middle of the season, and then the bookend against Ohio State. Those 3 games. What is Michigan going to do with those 3 games? All right, we've already determined they've got 9 wins in the bank. If they win one of those 3, that's 10-2. Michigan's a playoff team. You're not keeping a 10-2 Michigan team out of a 12-team expanded playoff and the national defending champions. You're not going to leave them out. They're in at 10-2. They're a playoff team. One of those 3 games, Texas, Oregon, or Ohio State, they're in the playoffs. Now, they win 2 of those 3. They're playing in the Big Ten championship. All right. And again, I don't know. And there's going to be some sort of triangle with the Oregon versus Ohio State, Michigan versus Ohio State, Michigan versus Oregon. There's going to be some sort of triangle there. If the teams go 1-1, it's going to be the tiebreakers could be crazy. But I'll say they win one of those 3. We're not sure which one yet. I want to see how Michigan does against Texas in week 2. That's really going to tell us where they're at. But I'll go ahead. I'll put them at 10. I'll go on the record here in early July and say 10. Might be 9, but I'm going to go 10. Okay? 10 wins for the Wolverines this season. So yeah, that's a step back from last year's 12-0 regular season, but still pretty good. That's what I meant at the top as we talk about the Wolverines. All right. So again, they win one of those 3 big ones. They're a playoff team. They win 2. They're playing for the Big Ten championship. And then they could possibly have a home playoff game in Ann Arbor. How sweet would that be? One final thought on Michigan's future. And perhaps as soon as today, Monday, we'll hear from 4-star tight end Andrew Olish on whether he will commit to Michigan. He is the number 4 tight end in the country. He is the number 2 tight end prospect out of the state of Pennsylvania, and his announcement will mean a big boost for the Wolverines class of 25 recruiting. He is also considering Alabama, but he really liked how current tight end Colston Loveland hosted him, showed him the ropes, and he feels like he is a priority for Sherrone Moore. So people are saying it looks like he will choose the Wolverines. That, again, could come down as soon as today. Hey, quick note. Did you watch any daytime TV? Sports TV, talking head TV? You have to turn it off because they're just screaming at each other, not really saying anything, just louder. Forget about ESPN and FS1 and Fox Sports. Check out our brethren from Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7. And it's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. It's Locked On Sports Today Brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels. Apps all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up, our Big Ten top 10 observations from the holiday weekend. All that right here on Locked On Big Ten. All right, it is time for our Big Ten top 10 observations from the weekend. We're going to put these on screen if you are listening on audio only, and there are a lot of you that do. You listen on audio only, and that's great. Wherever you get your favorite podcast at, I'll describe you in detail for what's going on video on our top 10 list, top 10 observations that I saw from the weekend. And we'll start it off with Oregon Duck star Jackson Shellstat. He scored 71 points in a Portland Pro-Am event here. That's a lot of points. So I thought it was worthy of a mention here coming off the holiday weekend. What else we have here? Number 9, shout out to Michigan alum JJ McCarthy, because there've been a lot of people have been pretty critical of him in Vikings camp, and maybe it was looking like he wasn't even going to be the second stringer, let alone the first stringer, maybe start off third string, maybe having some trouble figuring it out. But people are talking, and a lot of Vikings people are talking about his leadership. And we've always known that his leadership, like Jim Harbaugh said, look, he's going to win the interview room. He's going to show his leadership. That's who he is. And that's what's happening behind the scenes with Minnesota already. At number 8, Purdue, Ryan Walters. Want to give him a shout out. He got a commit on the 4th of July. A little bit of fireworks here. Dwayne Galloway is the 9th rated corner. He was in the country. He was looking at Michigan State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Nebraska, a lot of other Big Ten schools, and he decided to go to Purdue. They needed this. They needed this boost in recruiting. And what's great about it for Ryan Walters, look, he's a defensive guy at heart. He's going to have a corner to mold here. So maybe they hit it off on the recruiting trail. I want to talk Big Ten expansion at number 7. I saw a couple articles that TCU was in the mix. And, of course, everything I saw was, Big Ten's not going to invite TCU. No kidding. TCU was never coming to the Big Ten. That's not even – look, we like to talk expansion as much as anybody here on this podcast. But, no, the TCU not even going to entertain it. So, anyway, I got a laugh out of it this weekend. So I thought I'd put it on here. At number 6, Rutgers. They continue to do a great job recruiting. Greg Schiano out there. He got a 4-star linebacker. Kamar Archie out of New Jersey wanted to stay home. It apparently was between Rutgers and Michigan for the class of 2025. And being from New Jersey, he decided he wanted to stay at Rutgers. That happens a lot. Can't blame him. Also want to give a shout out at number 5 to Michigan State recruiting. In June, Jonathan Smith tripled the number of recruits he had. He's been getting after it, been getting busy. I told you earlier, I don't think they're going to be in a position to beat Michigan this year, but you never know in the future. Putting together a lot of talent up there in East Lansing. At number 4, my Big Ten top 10 observations from the weekend. Khalil Ware, former Indiana Hoosier basketball player, just drafted by the Miami Heat. Look, he's 7'1", but he's thin as a rail. He's 19. Might get pushed around in the NBA a little bit, but I was reading some comments, some post-game quotes, doing the summer thing. And he said, the Heat people, they say they got to get me in the weight room right away. And he looks like he's ready to go. So, you got to put a couple pounds on this kid. And also at number 3, our Big Ten top 10 observations for the weekend, Matt Rule at Nebraska hired former Penn State defensive coordinator John Butler as the secondary coach over the weekend. And in addition to being the Penn State defensive coordinator a few years back, he's been in the NFL as a coach. Look, Evan Cooper resigned, who had been with Rule for some time. And all of a sudden, a month before the start of practice, needed to get a new secondary coach in there. So, the former defensive coordinator at Penn State, John Butler, is now on Matt Rule's staff over there in Nebraska. At number 2, I thought I'd just throw this in here. Big Ten Media Days, 2 weeks, I believe, from tomorrow. 2 weeks away. Big Ten Media Days, then practice starts, and it's game on. Also, our final observation, number 1 of our Big Ten Top 10 observations over the weekend, Iowa alum Caitlin Clark on Saturday became the first WNBA rookie to get a triple-double. Did it against the mighty New York Liberty as the Fever won the game, came from double digits down to win 83-79. She scored 19 points, 13 assists, and 12 rebounds. So good for her. She just keeps getting better and better every single day. So those are my Big Ten Top 10 observations for the week. You may think it's slowing down, slow time of year. I've always got stuff we can find. And there it is. Here on the podcast, Locked On Big Ten. All right. There was some sad news over the weekend. I want to share it with you in case you missed it. And it involved some former Big Ten people, but you may have heard the sad news that there was a car wreck in Maryland and it took the life of Minnesota Vikings rookie Kyrie Jackson. He was a 4th-round pick out of Oregon and had a very bright future. Very sad. And there were 2 other victims in that accident in that car. They were high school teammates of his, and they have Big Ten ties. And it was former Penn State defensive back A.J. Lighton and former Maryland player Isaiah Hazel. They all lost their lives in that. Preliminary reports say a driver in another car was attempting to change lanes at possibly high speed, and the car carrying the 3 young men who were killed attempted to swerve and got off the road and struck multiple tree stumps and came to a stop, and they were killed there. Definitely sad news over the weekend. Our prayers go out to them and their families, but I did want to mention it. All right. In the meantime, there are many ways for you to interact with us here at this podcast. Don't forget on Twitter or X at TalkBig10 our website, TalkBig10 10.com for all your merchandise and all of our podcasts. And of course, this one will go. We also not only are podcasts in order chronologically, but we also group them by school. Today, obviously, we featured Michigan. You can go right to Michigan, find this podcast there or others just like it, and get your Michigan merchandise that we have there, getting you ready for the upcoming season as well. Tomorrow, we'll look at Ryan Day. Looks like he's put all of his chips in the middle of the table for this season. We'll preview the Buckeye season. All 18 teams. We did Michigan today. 1 down, 17 more to go. Can't wait to do it. It's going to be the rest of our month of July here. Unless any breaking news sets us off a day or so, but primarily we'll get them all in. Of course, don't forget, in addition to watching another podcast here of Locked On Big Ten, and if you subscribe, you get it as soon as it's available each and every day. Don't forget, we have our friends at the Locked On with Locked On Sports Today, and they come at you every day with the latest on our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe there as well. First ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, that'll do it. We're back in the flow coming off of a holiday weekend. By the way, I hope you had a great one, but we're moving. It's football season. It's coming fast and furious, and we'll have it here every single day. Tell your friends about us that we are here at Locked On Big Ten. For Locked On Big Ten, I'm Craig Sheeman. Thanks for the visit today, and I can't wait to talk to you tomorrow.